American cars guzzle gas. American cars are all style and no substance. American cars don't last. To all that, American Motors says nuts. This American Motors Concord and this Spirit are built to be more than just good looking. They're tough. Tougher than ever before. The only American cars with galvanized steel and 100% of the exterior body panels. That's right, 100%. And Concord and Spirit are more fuel efficient than ever before. This Concord actually gives you better mileage than Chevy Citation. Only the tough Americans give you Z-Bard factory rust protection and a full 5-year no rust through warranty.
Tough can be beautiful.
Plus the exclusive American Motors Buyer Protection Plan, still with the best economy car warranty coverage in the industry. Concord and Spirit, for good-looking high-mileage cars, don't sell the tough Americans short. Concord and Spirit, built to last, from American Motors. American cars with galvanized steel and 100% of the exterior body panels. That's right, 100%. Spirit are more fuel efficient than ever before. This Concord actually gives you better mileage than Chevy Citation. Only the tough Americans give you Z-Bard factory rust protection and a full 5-year no rust-through warranty.
Tough can be beautiful.
Exclusive American Motors buyer protection plan, still with the best economy car warranty coverage in the industry. Concord and Spirit. For good-looking high-mileage cars, don't sell the tough American short. Concord and Spirit, built to last from American Motors.
Hello, I'm Jim Bradley for American Motors Television News, and with us today is a movie actor, if I can just refer to you that way, Sam. Movie actor Sam Groom, movie star Sam Groom. The leading man for American Motors in the tough American Motors commercials these days. Also, a movie actor who's been in quite a few very successful films. One of them just recently, Hanging by a Thread, a 4-hour presentation on television. Another one I know coming up this fall. He's also played, I think, a doctor and police surgeon. How do you adapt to different police surgeon? How'd you get in this doctor talk anyway, Sam? I mean, how was that to adapt to?
Well, I'll tell you something. I guess I look a little bit like a doctor to most people because I seem to get cast as doctors a lot. And I take to it very easily. I one time spent a week at the Denver General Hospital in the emergency room doing some research for my show, and as I went around with the doctors being very clinical and cold would ask the questions patients about their condition, and invariably the patients would turn to me and answer. And the doctors got the biggest kick out of it. The reason was the doctors are cold and clinical, and I was very sympathetic and understanding and really trying to empathize with
medicine,
them.
Isn't it?
Well, they told me that, you know, so perhaps I helped out a bit.
That's great. You know, I didn't ask you. We were on the American Motor Show earlier this week. I didn't ask you about any of your favorite movies and things like that. I guess you must have favorite jobs. I have favorite things that I've done. I think about one of the most exciting interviews I ever did was with a prisoner of war from Vietnam when he first got back, and I've never forgotten that interview. You must have favorite things that you've done. What are some of them?
Well, probably the most favorite show I've ever done is a show done for public television. It was Clifford Odets' play called Paradise Lost that I did with Eli Wallach and Joe Van Fleet and Bernadette Peters and Cliff Gorman. We had a wonderful cast. We rehearsed for 3 weeks, and then we taped it in the studio. And Eli Wallach was a close friend of Clifford Odets, and he brought in some of the paintings that Clifford Odets had done and other memorabilia, and it was most fascinating. Clifford Odets, of course, was one of the guiding lights of the group theater in New York, which was really the forerunner of the method acting group that came to the fore in New York.
I'm sure if I asked you 5,000 questions, if I could come up with them, you've probably been asked most all of them before, but let me ask one that I'm sure you've been asked before. What would you like to do in the future? What type of either a Broadway play or a movie or something special for TV? What's in the back of your mind?
Well, I must say the ideal situation for all actors in California right now is to have 6 scripts for wonderful films sitting on your desk, and you can pick and choose which ones you're going to do and when you're going to do them. I suppose the hardest thing about this business is not knowing what you're going to do next, unless you're Robert Redford, who really is such a strong star today that he is literally hired before the movie is put together because they need him for the financing. The rest of us go from job to job, and it's except for 6 or 7 performers, the rest of us never know what we're going to be doing next. And I guess success in this business would be knowing precisely what you were going to do for the next 2 years.
Let me ask you a question. Now, you've been with American Motors somewhere about a year, give or take a couple of months. You've been doing commercials, the tough Americans. First of all, I want to ask you two parts. One, how did you get started? How did it come about? But secondly, does this in some way help? I guess I'm thinking about keeping you in front of the boob tube, so to speak, on a regular basis, and people start to associate with you more and more and more. And there have been a lot of people, and you've had some good works, but there have been people in the past who were unknown that came up and
Sure.
did that way, and they became so well known they went into acting and were very successful. So back to the original question, how did it first come about, and what about the commercials?
Well, American Motors was looking for a spokesman for the concept of the tough American, and they went to a couple of other performers first. Burt Lancaster, I understand, they went to first, and he didn't feel that he could endorse any product. I don't know why, but he didn't. And then they went to somebody else, and they came to me third. And I love the concept. Number one, I'm strong on American industry and strong on American cars and strong on American Motors cars. So I took to it immediately, and I hope it was successful. I'm back for a second year. I had never done commercials before, and I love doing them. At least I like doing these. It's a tough, hard sell, something that I feel is important, and it's fun to do.
Is it good for you, though, to keep you up? Is that a big asset, or is it not
Well,
important?
Any performer, there's a fine line that is drawn between being overexposed and underexposed. A commercial like this, which is a very good one, can be a positive factor. You're seen by the public constantly in a good light. I think it's a positive factor, particularly if you're known beforehand. Then when your face comes on the screen, it just reminds people of you. And I guess that's the name of the game, really, is keeping your name in people's minds, particularly producers and directors. And
What were some of the surprises you might have had? What were some of the things you might have expected? Did you learn something about American Motors and or the product that you didn't know before?
oh, of course, the care that goes into the making of these automobiles was, a complete revelation to me. I guess I had the greatest revelation yesterday when we were shooting out at the proving grounds. I guess they're called the proving grounds, aren't they?
Yeah.
The training track. And a wonderful fellow named Bob Archer took me around in his Eagle wagon through the torture course. And let me tell you something. If I wasn't a believer before, I am now. That is one hell of an automobile. He whipped me up hills and down hills, and he took me up grassy hills that looked like they were straight up. The ground was wet. It had been raining, and no other car that I know of outside of a Jeep could have made it up that hill. And that Eagle plowed up there like it was nothing.
Well, does it surprise you that cars are put through that? I mean,
Well, I'll tell you something. After going through it, we just went through the circuit one time, and I would hate to subject a car to that very often because, it is really devastating, except the purpose of that proving ground is to destroy an automobile. Fairly destroy an automobile so that they know how much stress and strain an automobile can take before it begins to break down, because obviously the safety of the American public depends upon that. So they really are trying to destroy an automobile, and
some of them do a pretty good job, don't they?
they do, but it takes a while, though. That's what's astonishing to me. I would think you'd go through that thing one time and your car would be a wreck, but that's not true at all. We went through that thing with that Eagle wagon yesterday, and it handled it like a champ.
Speaking of Eagle wagon, would you repeat for the viewing audience what you said to me on the radio show about your Eagle wagon in your home area? There was no Eagles. You said
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, yeah. American Motors was kind enough to give me to let me use an Eagle last year, which I have at home, and I had never seen one in my neighborhood before. And I have a wonderful kind of copper-toned one with a wood trim on the side, and I have it sitting out in front of my house. Well, within about a month to a month and a half, all of a sudden I saw 5 Eagle wagons, just like mine, not necessarily the same color, but with the wood trim on the side and everything, in my neighborhood. Now, I kind of live in the Santa Monica Mountains, so it's a terrific car for that area, and it's really catching on.
I'm just curious, do you get to know your neighbors very well? I mean, you're on the road quite a bit, I suppose.
Well, yeah, kind of. The person who lives right next door to me is Larry Kasdan, who wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
great movie.
and he's a young fellow, about 32 or 33, and he's going to be an enormous success. He is already. I mean, he's sitting back watching people go into those movie theaters. Raiders of the Lost Ark has been playing for about 3 months in my neighborhood.
Here, too. It's just great.
Ooh.
It's great. The longer it stays, I guess, the better it gets. One final question, because one thing that people are always asking, the employees are asking, when somebody like yourself comes here is, what are they doing here? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and maybe some of the things that we as employees of American Motors forget, maybe that's the best way to say, we forget some of the basics about the automobile we make, the toughness of the car, the quality, or the extra things that we do offer that other companies may not?
Well, the purpose of my visit this time is we're making a complicated and I hope very good training film for the American Motors salesman. We tell a story in this commercial, in this sales film, about Robert McNamara when he was in charge of marketing at Ford, when they were talking about improving sales, and one of his subordinates said, hell, we've forgotten more about sales than our competitors ever learned. And McNamara said, yeah, that's the problem, we've forgotten. So we want to remind the salesman all the good qualities we have in this automobile to sell, and how they compare against other automobiles. And they compare very well against other automobiles. So hopefully they will be a little more knowledgeable and be able to work with. There's a nice partnership between the on-air advertising we do on television and what the salesman is going to say in the showroom floor. Hopefully they're going to be the same thing, the same points, the same strong points they're going to use when they sell the automobile. So we're trying to coordinate that, get them to understand what we're saying, and hopefully improve sales.
And it's so true. We forget some of the things that we have to offer, even.
We're
absolutely.
Employees,
and we forget about the galvanized steel, the white sidewall tires, the vinyl tops that come as part of the car, and they're still lower than most others.
You better believe it. That's a good, tough automobile, and I'm proud to drive one, and I would have to think anybody that has one is. It is a fine car.
For good-looking, high-mileage cars, don't sell the tough American short.
We do forget that.
Okay, as part of the employment of American Motors, I guess you have to get back to work, but could you tell us a little bit about the movie you have coming up, I believe you said, on ABC this fall?
Yes, it's a movie called The Day the Loving Stopped. It's with Dennis Weaver and Valerie Harper, directed by a wonderful old director named Danny Mann. It's an interesting story. It's the breakup of a marriage as seen through the eyes of the two young daughters. An hour-and-a-half movie. And I think it's an interesting and touching film.
Well, I guess it's proper for this day and age when people more and more are accepting divorce as a way of life and having 2, 3, or 4 marriages.
Yeah, and I don't think they understand really how it affects their children. And that really is what this movie is all about. How a child looks at the breakup of two parents who they deeply love and how it affects them.
Sam, this is your second trip to Kenosha's plant of American Motors, and it's really been a pleasure having you here. As I told you on the American Motor Show radio program, people here look on you better than they have any other actor I think has ever been here. People are not afraid to communicate with you, and I think it's obvious to our viewers right now is why you're a special kind of an individual with a special kind of way of communicating, and we thank you very much for being with us.
Oh, well, thank you, Jim. It's nice to be here.
Take care.
All right.
Good luck. I'm Jim Bradley for American Motors Television News.